I had to be sort of dragged kicking and screaming into making this movie in a way. I was sort of provoked into making it because a director friend of mine came to me and said, look, there's a deal to do a low budget film, it's no strings attached, whatever you want to do, and do you want to do it? And I was like, ow, why are you asking me now? Because I'm 6 months pregnant. And I was a bit like, only this guy would ask me to do a job while I'm 6 months pregnant. Like, I was a bit like, no, what are you talking about? I'm going on my non-existent maternity leave that doesn't exist when you're a freelancer, because you're just essentially unemployed, really. And so I was kind of like, I said no. And then I went away and thought, well, if I did do it and I played a pregnant character, what story would I tell? And so I came up with this idea, and I went back and sort of went, well, what do you think of this? And he was like, it's brilliant. And the company loved it as well, and they were like, let's do it. And I was like, can we do it in the next 2 months? Because I'm going to have a baby. And they were like, yeah, let's do it. And I was like, couldn't believe it, really. And then I was sort of in denial that it was really happening, because my friends would see me and they'd be like, what are you doing? Are you putting your feet up? You know, you're relaxing. And I would be going, no, I'm making a feature film, and apparently, and everyone would go like, what? And then I'd be like, oh, don't worry, it's not going to happen. I sort of was like, yeah, but I can't believe they're going to let me direct a feature film while pregnant. So I was sort of going through the motions, but not really believing that it was going to happen. Yeah, so it was all a very strange circumstance. I mean, I'm really glad that I did it now, obviously, because otherwise I'd be at home crying, I think. But yeah, I've sort of had my cake and eaten it, because I've brought my daughter, you know, along all around the world and stuff. So I've had a really good time.
So in the movie, your unborn child is telling you to kill, kill, kill. Did your unborn child tell you to shoot, 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 and make the movie?
I don't know, really. Well, yeah, she seems to have enjoyed the tour, so maybe she was compelling me to make a film. Maybe she's like the tiniest director, I don't know, like controlling me from inside. Cut there, at that point, I don't know, but yeah, she seems to like the movie business. She's been in lots of meetings now, which is actually true, she has. She's like sat through edits and sound mixes and meetings with producers and, you know, production companies and channels and all sorts, and she's very good. Yeah, she's all right.
Did you also do the voice of your daughter in the film?
I did, yeah. Yeah, we went through lots of different ideas, and we even tried a child actor, and it was so actually genuinely annoying that we couldn't do it. It was sort of cute in a really horrendous way. And I was like, we can't do it. We can't use a child actor. And then we thought about using an elderly actress or something, which would be quite interesting. But meanwhile, all the time, I was doing all the temp stuff because we were juggling it around. And the sound designer said, well, look, what if I just treat your voice and see what happens? And he did that treatment on it, and I really liked it. And so we went for it, really. And there's a nice circularity to it as well, because you're sort of like, is it Ruth or is it the baby? What, you know, it could be her own madness, I suppose. So yeah, it worked quite well.
So this film must have been a real production challenge for you, being pregnant, plus you had to be shooting and you had to be in production while you were pregnant, of course. Didn't give you much time to write the movie, I would imagine, and to shoot it as well. Could you talk about some, plus the challenges of actually going through that physical condition? Could you talk about some of that challenge, that turmoil?
Well, you know, I kind of knew that from the budget that it had to be shot over a short time, and that was quite good because I didn't know if I was going to change my bump size significantly, you know, or if I was going to have the energy to do it, you know, over several weeks. So I was like, it's got to be days rather than weeks to shoot. And so I wrote the whole thing thinking about that, and I kind of had this idea that if I did lots of long scenes that were two-handers, and we'd get an actor in every day, and we'd sort of kill them in the morning. and then we'd sort of do all the dialogue stuff in the afternoon. And that's kind of what we did. And it worked as well. And then we did all sort of in-between stuff with my character. And actually, I can honestly say I didn't feel tired while we were shooting. I mean, I did, but only no more than anyone else, I think. And I really enjoyed it and had a brilliant time because there was a certain economy about the way it was done. I sort of planned it really well in my mind of what methods we were going to shoot, and how we were going to shoot it. That it was fine and it wasn't too stressful. It was more like the post-production that was tricky with a newborn baby. Because I was kind of like they'd be sending me rushes in the film and I'd have a laptop balance here and a sleeping baby here, and I'd be sort of balancing it on one knee, trying to send my notes on the first cut or whatever. And we did that for a couple of months, and then I started going into the edit, and then I was sort of like changing stinky nappies in this tiny room in summer, you know, in London, which sometimes it gets warm almost in London, you'll be surprised to know. And like there was things like we did a sound mix, and the sound designer works in his attic, and you have to go up a ladder, and we were doing things like putting the baby in a car seat and winching her. We had to actually with an actual winch. I'm not just saying that as a proverbial thing. It's like we had to tie a rope to her and pull her up through this thing. So that was more challenging than the actual shoot.